Morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
Welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. I do have a guest today. Mr. Steve Moore contacted me. He's a faithful listener, and he said, I've got a good guest for you. And he said, me. And the reason Steve's here today is he is a stroke survivor, and one of the recognitions we do for May is Stroke Awareness or Stroke Awareness Month. And so he said, I'd like to speak to that. So Steve, just kind of shares a little bit how, your history there, how, and what kind of transpired since you had your stroke.
Well, first of all, Matt, I'm sure glad and appreciative of the fact that you called me and together all the rest of us who are still above ground and kicking.
Right.
Called us stroke survivors. And I emphasize this very strongly, we are not victims.
Right.
We are not victims. We are survivors. And believe me, my neurologist, Dr. Callahan, back 27 years ago, told me when he saw me that, in fact, I was lucky to be alive,
Right.
and he held his thumb and forefinger about an inch apart and said I came within that much of dying. And I'm just thankful and grateful to the good Lord above and God that I'm still around, and I want everybody to know that, by George, there is life after a stroke.
Right.
And it's possible to get what you get out of life, what you put into it, and we'll go into that a little bit more.
Well, you said
as this interview goes on.
Right. Now you mentioned 20. It was 20.
Raised. I'm 84 years old, so I had the stroke 27 years ago, and I'm still here. I have digressed or gone downhill over those 27 years. I didn't, at the first of it, I was not wheelchair bound. I was able to walk and everything, but I've gone downhill a little bit in those 27 years.
Right.
But I'm still here, and I just want everybody out there to know that, especially my fellow stroke survivors, keyword again being survivors, that there is life after strokes, having a stroke.
Yeah.
Now,
you mentioned it was 27 years ago when this happened, and of course, medical technology or whatever, that they've gotten a lot better in that time. So I say it's kind of remarkable that you've been 27 years post-stroke. Now, and I know you worked as a first responder, so you probably dealt with working with people that had strokes and knew the symptoms. Were you working when it happened? Give us a little history there.
Well, let's put it this way. Here we go. I've been all my life, I'm retired, obviously, after my stroke. I was an athletic trainer at Tennessee Tech when I came here to Cookeville in 1968. Myself and my wife, we moved here from Bloomington, Indiana. I was the assistant trainer at Indiana University at the time, and Coach Wade and Coach Eblin and President Derryberry hired me in 1968, and I moved here to Cookeville on June 1st in 1968 and became the athletic trainer at Tennessee Tech. I stayed there until about, I guess it was 84, 85, and then I went to work for Sports Medicine and Therapy Center here in Cookeville, which no longer exists. And then in 1994, I was hired by Columbia Sports Medicine out of Nashville to remain in Cookeville and be their liaison, I guess, or their traveling athletic trainer. I had 14 high schools in the Upper Cumberland that I visited. It was not the best circumstance in the world, but at least it gave these high schools a chance to get a hold of an athletic trainer and have somebody come by. I had a pager and a cell phone back then. and I was a circuit rider, I guess you could call me. And I stayed on the road all the time and went to games. I got paid. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I got paid to go to ball games.
Yeah.
And see these young people perform at their best. And I'm so thankful for that. Believe me. But since September of 1998, I've been retired. I'm at the house, and I love to have people come by and visit me and so forth. But that's what happened to me, and I don't know what caused it. Dr. Callahan, my neurologist, they didn't have any neurologists there in Cookeville at the time, told me that I had atrial fibrillation, which is responsible for about 90%, somewhere around there, of strokes.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. So I've been on medication, blood thinners, ever since. And I see the doctor, and I'm still alive and kicking. And I want everybody out there to know that, by golly, there is something to be said for life after a stroke. And we are stroke. And I emphasize again, stroke survivors.
Right.
Stroke survivors, not stroke victims.
Right.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, one of the things, of course, no, you're fine. But, of course, this show is insurance matchmaking, and so I've got to pitch some insurance in here. The one of the things that we're able to offer is we have plans that are cancer, heart attack, and stroke plans that will pay you a lump sum if you or a loved one has a stroke, because I'm sure there's a lot of, and then I'm going to ask Steve to kind of address this, is there's a lot of expenses that come up that might not be covered by your health insurance. Your health insurance is going to pay for that ambulance. They're going to pay for that stay in the hospital, probably pay for some physical therapy. But once those things are done, you probably have some other expenses. Can you kind of address that, Steve? Like I said, you probably had good health insurance at the time, but what are some gaps maybe that you ran into that, some money from an insurance policy would have helped you cover?
I'm really thankful for the fact that I didn't know at the time, but when I signed on to work with Columbia Sports Medicine out of Nashville, which was an arm part of HCA over there in Centennial Medical Center, I did have disability insurance.
Very good.
And I'm so thankful.
Right.
Because I probably would have had to declare, my wife works too, but I would have probably had to declare bankruptcy and walk out.
Now, how long did that disability insurance cover? Because it replaces, 60% of you, that's typical anyway. A disability policy will reimburse you or fill in for about 60% of what you would make on the job. How long did that disability?
Yeah, that's about right. It did. And I had disability insurance through HCA over there, and they paid for my rehab. I got an extra 2 weeks of rehab.
Good.
I can't remember for sure, but I think my disability insurance was through, I know it was a company in Minneapolis, but I think it was United Healthcare.
Could have been.
Back in December, the CEO got murdered up in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was able to, extend a background in rehabilitation that I had, I was able to call my case manager up there every Friday afternoon and talk with her, and she gave me an extra 2 weeks. Normally at the time, you got 4 weeks of rehab, and then they sent you home to work on your own, which I did after 6 weeks. I set up a home gym and rehabbed myself for about a year, and I was able to walk pretty well with a cane and a brace on my right side, on my right leg, my ankle. But the doctor told me I was just about as good as I was going to get. But anyway, I'll just in a minute. I'd like to just go over what some of the signs and the symptoms are.
Yeah, good idea.
Stroke, but I know that we need to talk with you, and you need to get your amount in here and talking about insurance. So I'll be glad to answer anything I can about that.
All right. So, and then I know I hear the spots, the public service spots on the radio, and they talk about FAST. So, if you want to address that, you mentioned some of the symptoms, and one of the things they say is think of the acronym FAST.
Right. That's what they're talking about now, and you'll probably hear quite a bit of it, especially during the month of May, because every year. We talk about that, May being Stroke Awareness Month, and believe me, strokes are getting more prevalent every year because of people's lifestyles.
Uh-huh.
And a stroke, in essence, is a heart attack of the brain. And most of your strokes, well, there's two types of strokes. There's either a brain bleed or a occlusion or a blood clot that forms, and that's what happened to me because I had what they call atrial fibrillation. And what happens is your heart beats out of sync. You might say that's the simplest way of putting it. And the way that they treat it is with now, if you can get to the hospital within a 3 to 4 hour window of opportunity, they can go in through and go right to your brain with a radiologist and interventionist radiology, and they can go right up with a catheter and inject you into you right at the site of the stroke.
Yeah.
This is how well technology has advanced in those years. They didn't have it. They were working on it back 27 years ago, but they didn't have it, and you had to go to get your rehab. They didn't have anything here in Cookeville. They had, I think, one neurologist. I may be wrong on that, but they did not. Now, my George, you can go right to Cookeville Regional Medical Center is a stroke awareness or a stroke center.
Right.
And they have a team over there that you get in there within that window of opportunity, you'll go right to the cath lab, and they'll what they call the clot buster.
Yeah.
And a good percentage of your stroke survivors will end up walking out of the hospital after their stroke. That didn't happen to me, not because they weren't going to do it. They didn't have the tools to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's what I was talking about when you said, it's been 27 years that, you're kind of I don't know what to say, miracle story, but, you're not maybe the norm of survival, which, that's much better now. They've got these newer technologies they didn't have, and we've got more facilities here at Cookeville Regional that maybe we didn't, 27 years ago. It was just a small regional hospital, and, they've expanded a lot of, the heart centers and the cancer centers and have done quite a bit of other things there. So anyway, we're coming up close to our break here. So we got to let that commercial time in, and then we'll pick up here in just a minute.
Join Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity for their Dream Builders Putnam Luncheon, Tuesday, May 13th from 12 to 1 p.m. at The Edge at Life Church. You'll get to hear from donors, homeowners, and volunteers. Admission is $25. And if you're interested in being a table host, please reach out to Casey at 931-528-1711, extension 6. It's Upper Cumberland Habitat for Humanity Dream Builders Putnam Luncheon, May 13th, 12 to 1 at The Edge at Life Church.
Hi, this is Mark Gall, your Twin Lakes Business Solutions Consultant. From all of us here at Twin Lakes, congratulations to all the graduating seniors here in the Upper Cumberland. As you graduate, take pride in your hard work and dedication. Cherish the memories you've made along the way with family and friends. And at this time, look forward to what's ahead. Your future is bright, and Twin Lakes is cheering you on every step of the way. Congratulations, class of 2025.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, we are back with my guest Steve Moore, a stroke survivor. He very adamantly doesn't want us to talk about being a stroke victim. He is a stroke survivor of 27 years. He's 84 and still kicking. And we were talking a little bit before the break about the acronym FAST, which is face, arms, speech, and time. And did I get that right, Steve?
Yeah, that's what the latest and the best way to remember what to do. You've heard the advertisement of the woman who drops her keys and this and that at the office, and somebody told her to go home and lay down. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And do not try to drive yourself to the hospital. Please call 911.
Right.
Please, I emphasize that again. Call 911. I have worked part-time for the ambulance service here in EMS. I'm not able to now, but man, please do not try to drive yourself or have somebody else drive you to the hospital. Call the ambulance, call EMS, call 911. Why? Because the ambulance in today's technology is a rolling emergency room.
Yeah,
those people over there, especially here in Putnam County and other surrounding counties, they are able to do a lot right on the scene or on the way to the hospital,
right
in the back of the ambulance. And when you get to the hospital, they'll be ready for you, and they'll take you probably directly to the cath lab where they do that here in Cookeville now at Cookeville Regional Medical Center.
Right.
They've got a stroke team over there. They can do everything, and if you do need rehabilitation, they can do that at what they call the Blue Roof, the rehabilitation hospital.
Yeah.
And I just saw in the paper, I think it was last week or so, they're getting ready to enlarge and go from 20 beds to 50 beds.
Oh, wow, I didn't see that.
Make an addition to the rehab Blue Roof over there right in back of the hospital. You can't miss it. It's got a blue roof.
Yep.
And believe me, they can do wonders over there with the stroke team that they've got. But you got to get to the hospital as soon as you can. And that's where the acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, comes in to play here, where F means facial drooping, A means arm drooping or weakness or inability to move it, S means speech slurring, and T means time.
Right.
Time. You're on the clock.
You're on the clock, yeah.
There's no need to go to Nashville.
Right. And you mentioned the Blue Roof. It made me think of something. I actually had a client reach out. I don't know if they were a client or prospective client, but they had reached out to me, and it matters what insurance you have, because that's very handy. You got that rehab facility right there next to the hospital, and the person I was talking to, I don't think the patient was a client, but it was a family member of a client. This individual, because of her insurance, she had to go to Livingston to the rehab facility there. And nothing against that, but she had to take an ambulance ride all the way to Livingston. And I know it's not that far, but and instead of just coming out of the hospital and right there into the Blue Roofs because of the insurance she had. So that's one of those things that we can help you with when you're shopping insurance, is to make sure that you're getting a plan that is accepted widely, and knowing that, hey, yes, it doesn't matter where you go, that plan will work. So that's something we can help with. I mentioned I've actually watched a YouTube. I watch, and I've talked about this on the show before, that sometimes when I'm mowing, it's funny because I'll play a YouTube while I'm mowing because I've got my headset on and I'm just listening to it. But there's one the other day I was on, and it was talking about how much the Medicare supplement plans have increased their premiums this year. And what had happened was, part of it was COVID. People weren't going and getting routine things done. Maybe they needed a knee replacement, but being in a hospital, it was full of COVID patients, was not the time to do something like that. Now we've kind of out of that COVID window. People are having all these things that weren't urgent, that they could put off, and now they're doing it. And so it's raised the cost of how much those Medicare. So there's a lot of high costs in it. One of the things with a Medicare supplement, you do not have to wait for the annual enrollment period in the fall like you do with the Medicare Advantage plans. You could change that plan today and have it go in effect and get a plan that has a lower premium, as long as you don't have any health conditions that would preclude you from doing that. And the reason I bring that up is one of the beauties of having a Medicare supplement plan is you don't have any networks to deal with. That's what you run into with the Medicare Advantage, is those networks. And so you want to make sure you know what networks are, what facilities are in network with the plan you're on. Not to say a Medicare Advantage is bad, but if you're worried about being told where you can go that the insurance will pay, Medicare supplement is going to be the better route for you. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but as I say, with a Medicare supplement, you're paying for coverage. With a Medicare Advantage, it's pay as you go. So if you don't need the health services, it's nice to have that zero premium plan, but that's not always what's best for everyone. So, Steve, you talked about, you called me because, May is Stroke Awareness Month. How long have you been being an evangelist for that, hey, let's get the word out for survivors? Has it been just the last couple of years, or have you been doing this pretty much since you had your stroke?
Yes, sir, I have. I've tried to be upbeat and be a ray of sunshine here in Cookeville and the surrounding areas to those who have been have had a stroke. And the main thing I try to get across to these people is, and we had a stroke support group. I'm no longer able to go to it, but we started it. I'm not sure if it's still viable here in town or not, but please refer to yourself and have others, your loved ones and everything, refer to you as a stroke survivor.
Right.
You're not a stroke victim. There's accident victims when they get killed or whatever in a wreck and everything, but we're not victims. We're survivors, and we get out of life what we want to put into it. And yeah, I've gone downhill gradually over the last 27 years, but I still get to see the sun come up every morning. The birds, I've got a bird feeder out here. I've got a ramp that I can get outside. And it's just life is, it's a blessing. It's a joy, and God left me on this earth for a reason, and I really believe this, that I'm supposed to be an advocate for stroke survivors, and that's what I want to do.
Well, you're doing a fine job of that. And one thing I was thinking a lot of times with those with stroke survivors is they have slurred speech, that they don't get back their speech. And of course, hey, you're 84, your voice is a little gravelly, probably has come on with age, but your speech is very clear. Did you go through a time where speech was difficult as part of your recovery, or was that just not something that affected you? It affected you more on the muscle control?
No, in my case, the biggest identifier, I guess you could say, that I'd had a stroke was that I had a neuromuscular deficit diminished on my right side, because the stroke that I had was in my brain stem, and it was anything that happens and residuals on your whatever side it is, your stroke is going to be on the other side, because that's the way your brain is wired. And I had my stroke in the brain stem, and I'm really lucky because the brain stem is where the breathing center in the body is located. I do have a what you call a neuromuscular nerve and muscle deficit on my right side, but my doctor told me that I was about as good as I was going to get.
Right.
So I've got some numbness and tingling in my hand, and my foot doesn't work too good, my ankle joint. That can be overcome. I'm in a wheelchair, yes, but I can still get around, and I've still got a good life, I guess you could say, after my stroke. And I had another one in 2001, a smaller one on my, it was the week between Christmas and New Year's in 2001, and it's sort of another setback, but I've been able to overcome that, and I want everybody out there, especially stroke survivors, to know that, yes, there is life after stroke. Yes, it's not the best life you had before you had your stroke. And believe me, my stroke lasted, it hit me just in about just a few minutes, and the damage, if you want to call it that, was done. But through rehab, and they rehabbed me over at Centennial Medical Center at the time, and I got an extra 2 weeks over there.
Yeah.
And now there's no reason for anybody to go to Nashville. You can get everything you need, and I don't want to be a salesman for Cookeville Regional Medical Center. They do a great job over there. They've got some great doctors in all of your specialties, and they can rehab you right here in Cookeville at the rehab hospital. And then if you need to, they can send you to a nursing home for some follow-up if they deem it necessary. But you can get everything done, and you can get insurance through you, and it's just there is life after a stroke. I want to emphasize that again. We're not stroke victims. We're stroke survivors.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad to be alive. And I can look out the window and see the birds flying out there. Back in January, I saw a bald eagle fly over Cookeville. It was following the railroad tracks. And, that just gave me inspiration right there.
I hear
that
you.
Symbol of our great country. And there it goes, the bald eagle flying toward all good, following the railroad tracks. That inspired me to no end, believe me. But please, folks, I know I'm sounding like a broken record. We're stroke survivors. We do have value in this life. We're here. We were left here on this earth for a reason. God took care of that.
All right.
And I believe that with all my heart. Here I am. I want to be an advocate in Cookeville and the surrounding area for people who've had a stroke. We're not stroke victims. We're stroke survivors.
All right. I need to jump in here. We're actually running out of time. Just reiterate the acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, FACE for face drooping, arm weakness, speech slurring, and then T for time is it's time to call 911. Don't wait. Don't try to drive yourself to the hospital. But as I said, we're running out of time here. As always, tune into Insurance Matchmaking. You can go to insurancematchmaking.com. And remember, at Matt Libby Insurance, we can cover you from head to toe. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.